Here are 12 APS-C lenses that will beat out full frame in both budget, size, and weight. The idea that you have to spend a ton of money on lenses to get great shots is becoming increasingly outdated. I used to be there, but I'm slowly coming around to find that APS-C ecosystems is where it's at. I have two full frame cameras, and a lot of time I'm using APS-C cameras with APS-C lenses because they're smaller in form factor, but they still pack a powerful punch. If you're not sure of what lens is right for you, I'll provide some free sample videos and photos of shots that I've got with each of these lenses, and I'll leave a download link in the description so that you can download them and play around with them in your editing rigs. Now, it's pretty expensive to run a site that provides you guys with all of these free files, so if you decide to purchase any of these lenses using the affiliate links in the description below, it would be greatly appreciated. The lenses that I'm gonna list are not only Sony E mount or Fuji X mount or Canon RF mount. All of these lenses come in different mounts. If you see a lens that you like, just make sure to double check that the lens mount that's housed on your camera will support the lens mount to the lens that you're purchasing. I just had a friend reach out to me. They sent me a link to a lens they liked. They told me their camera. I said, you're good to go, make the purchase. 5 minutes later, I realized that it was the wrong lens mount. So I had to make sure that that got cleared up before they made that purchase, and I don't want the same thing to happen to you. I've used all of these lenses personally in various applications, and I want to share my findings with you, especially if you're in the market for an APS-C lens. A lot of these lenses go on sale periodically, so the prices that I mention in this video might not match up with the affiliate links that I have below. Also, this video is not being sponsored. I'm going to show you an array of different lenses from different lens companies. If you get to the end of this video and you're still undecided about which lens you should purchase, I made a free lens quiz on which camera or lens you should choose. The quiz will ask you specific questions, and based on your answers, it will funnel you to the lens that best suits your needs. But before you jump into that quiz, let's jump into this video. Please comment below and tell me which lenses that you have, because I love hearing from you guys. The very first lens we're going to talk about is the TT Artisan 25mm f2. This lens is priced between $55 and $64 depending on what lens mount you go with, and let me tell you, it's an amazing little lens. It comes in Sony E mount, Fuji X mount, Nikon Z mount, Canon RF mount, L mount. It comes in just about every lens mount that you could ask for. It's sharp, and I have used it quite extensively for the past few months as I was creating my comparison videos for cameras. This little lens has an equivalent focal length of about 37mm on a full frame camera, so just keep that in mind. That puts it right at the sweet spot for everyday shooting or just walking around getting street photography with this lens. It was released in September of 2022, so people have put it through its paces, and it's got a pretty solid 4.2 out of 5 stars on Amazon. Amazon is not a camera store, but it definitely plays a major role in my lens research process as far as seeing what other people are saying about the particular lens. So I thought it would be important to include the Amazon ratings for all of these lenses in this video. The fact that it has manual focus forced me to be more creative with my shots. Coming in at around 55 bucks, you really can't beat that price for what you get. The Fuji X100 VI has been on back order for the past 10 months or 12 months, I don't know. The reason I bring that up is because that has a fixed 23mm lens on it. With an f2 aperture, it lets plenty of light in, making it a solid choice for everything from dimly lit interiors to nighttime shots and shots in low light. The specs say that this is an all metal body. It definitely feels like it. It's really tough. You pick this thing up and there's a weight to it, like a solidness. It's not like those cheap plasticky kit lenses that you could buy bundled with your camera. This feels like a serious piece of glass. It just has that really nice heft to it. But the thing that really blows me away about this lens is its bokeh. It just melts away the background, giving your photos this dreamy or artistic look. And if you're into video, even though it's a manual focus lens, you can still get some beautiful bokeh. By the way, if you like videos like this one, make sure to join the Film Alliance by subscribing. The Sigma 16mm f1.4 is super popular because, well, it's super sharp and it has an incredible feel to it, especially if you're a vlogger. You can use this lens as a grip when you have an APS-C camera set to it, and it'll turn your APS-C camera into a 24mm full frame equivalent camera. You're gonna want a camera with a heavier body because it will make your camera feel a little lopsided or forward heavy, and you could easily drop it. So you're gonna want a good grip on whatever camera you end up using with it. This lens is more on the expensive side when we talk about these 12 different lenses, coming in at $419 US. But because it was released in late 2017, there are a lot of used or lightly used Sigma 16s out there that you could pick up for almost half the cost. This lens comes in Sony E mount, Canon EF mount, Fuji X, L mount, Nikon Z, and Micro Four Thirds. Buying used lenses is a good option, but I would just advise looking at pictures of the used lens before you make the purchase, specifically inspecting the glass for any scratches, obviously, or haze that could affect the image quality, or dust particles that might be inside the glass. Also check with who you're buying it from to make sure that they allow warranties in case you get it and it doesn't seat properly on the camera or it doesn't communicate with the camera right. This lens is fantastic for capturing those everyday moments with a natural perspective. It's wide enough to take in a good chunk of your surroundings, making it perfect for environmental portraits or street photography where you want to show subjects and give it a little bit more context. But you could also easily use it for landscapes and architecture, especially if you don't need one of those ultra wide field of view types of lenses. While this is an amazing lens, it's just a little bit too bulky for me to justify taking it on trips. If you're looking for something more travel friendly, then I would recommend checking out this next one, which is the Sigma 18-50mm f2.8. The Sigma 18-50 f2.8 is also a fantastic lens. It delivers a really great image quality and it's incredibly compact. You'll notice a huge difference compared to something that you would get maybe like a kit lens. This lens comes in Canon RF, Sony E, Fuji X, and Leica L mount. This lens is priced at approximately $519 USD, and that's a significant jump up from what you would get with the kit lens, but the image quality will also be a lot better. Sigma introduced this lens in October of 2021, and it features a minimum focus distance of 4.8 inches. It is weather sealed, which is a huge plus, and it has an aperture range of f2.8 to f22. Coming in with 4.7 stars out of 5 on Amazon, it's poised to be one of the most popular APS-C standard zoom lenses made for APS-C cameras. One thing that I really appreciate is this lens has a constant f2.8 aperture. That means you get that nice bright aperture throughout the entire zoom range. Unlike a lot of other lenses that are out on the market, especially Sony kit lenses, as you zoom, that aperture changes. It's not just a versatile and compact lens though. This lens produces really sharp images and the autofocus is super quick and reliable, which is pretty typical of my experience with Sigma lenses. Now, I know it's not the cheapest option out there. You could definitely go for a Sony kit lens and save yourself around $400, but honestly, if you can swing it, think of Sigma as an extra investment. But just a heads up, it doesn't have built-in stabilization, so that might be a downside if you're planning on shooting a lot of video or you're planning on doing handheld or vlogging or something like that. I tested it out with 3 different cameras, and while the A6700 did give me the smoothest footage, it still wasn't perfect. If you really want those smooth and cinematic type shots, then you're gonna have to factor in budgeting for a gimbal or a monopod. I used a gimbal with this lens and the results were fantastic. This lens provides a full frame equivalent zoom range of 27 to 75 millimeters, and it's almost $200 less than its rival, the $700 Tamron 17-70 f2.8. The Tamron 17-70 f2.8 is the most expensive out of all of these lenses on this list, but it will also give you the most focal range, 17 millimeters all the way to 70 millimeters, or 25 to 105 millimeters full frame equivalent. You would purchase this lens if you are a wedding photographer or videographer, or to get those tight shots 1 minute and then wide shots the next minute without having to change lenses at all. This lens comes on Sony E mount and Fuji X as of the time of recording this video. It also has 4.6 out of 5 stars on Amazon, which is just under that Sigma 18-50, but when you're paying that premium amount, people want premium results. This lens also has a constant aperture at f2.8, just like the Sigma 18-50, and it excels for those who need that quick and on-the-fly lens, meaning you put it on your camera and you don't take it off the entire time you're shooting. If one day you're filming a travel vlog needing to capture those wide shots and landscapes, and the next you're shooting a product review or needing to zoom in close for a detailed shot or even doing a headshot like this, then this is your lens. If you ever wanted to figure out what your favorite focal length is and you have a bank of photos, I found a pretty cool trick that you can go through your own photos and videos and make a folder of your favorite shots. And then just click on those shots and click on the metadata, and usually you'll be able to see what lens you were using and what focal length the lens was set at. And that's how I'm able to find what my favorite focal length is. As of the time of recording this video, it's 35 millimeters. All right, back to this Tamron 17-70. This lens is perfect for everyday use, including landscapes, portraits, and video work. It's versatile and it makes a great choice for those of you who want the all-in-one solution without having to constantly switch out your lens. But this next lens would provide a better headshot. The price of this lens ranges between $250 USD and $300 USD depending on what lens mount you get, which is actually very affordable if you factor in purchasing a full frame prime lens with the same focal length. For example, this full frame 35mm f1.4 lens that I'm using on my full frame A7S III comes in at $800. So this APS-C lens is almost half the cost. It'll give you a similar looking headshot, but it will be 45mm full frame equivalent. It's one of the most popular lenses in this listing, coming in at 4.8 out of 5 stars with over 4,000 reviews. This lens comes in all of the major lens mounts. A 45mm prime lens is a bit of a specialist type of lens, but it's a real gem for certain types of photography and video. It's that sweet spot between 50mm, your nifty 50, and a wider 35mm, offering a really natural perspective that's perfect for capturing people and their surroundings. Think of it like the ideal walk-around lens for street photography or environmental portraits. It's also a fantastic choice for capturing those candid moments with friends and family where you just want to preserve a feeling of the scene without any distortion. And because this lens has an aperture of f1.4, you can achieve that amazing shallow depth of field and create those images with a soft, blurry background. If there are any other APS-C lenses that I didn't mention in this video that you feel like should have made it to this video, please let me know which ones those are and also your reasoning why. The Sigma 30mm f1.4 was launched in February of 2016, making it relatively old if you think about it, yet its longevity speaks to its popularity. A quick look at reviews will substantiate that claim. A lot of people love this lens. It has a minimum focus distance of 11 inches and a maximum aperture of f16, which isn't the best, especially if you want to go out and shoot outdoor daytime shots. If you do want to do that, then you're going to have to invest in an ND filter. I attempted to adjust the aperture to combat that bright light while I was using it, increasing my aperture, but once I reached f16, I realized I needed to either change locations or install an ND filter. I would use this lens as a mid-range client headshot lens, or to use it as a B lens to my B cam, next to my A cam, which houses my A lens, which is this next one. If I was going for a tight client headshot, then the Viltrox 75 f1.2 would be my choice. The price of this lens is around $580 as of the time of recording this video, and it's actually increased in price over the last 6 months, which is pretty incredible. This lens comes in Sony E-mount, Fuji X, and Nikon Z. In many cases, lenses increase in value because of their demand. Plus, lenses with exceptional build quality hold their value better since they're built to last and perform well over the years. It's not a guarantee with every lens, but choosing wisely can make a lens a good investment, both creatively and financially. But I've also seen lenses that decrease in value as well. If we're talking about the sharpest lens I've ever mentioned up until this point, this one is definitely it. For portrait headshots, this would be my top choice. I'd also use it for client talking headshots, as the 75mm, which is equivalent to 112mm, means that I'll need to place subjects about 10 to 15 feet away to maintain a flattering perspective. However, I did notice that when subjects are farther from the camera with the aperture fully open, the background can appear overly blurred and almost even look fake. So to achieve a more natural look, I'll often stop down to f2.8. Although the purpose of portraits is to create a pleasing blur to help the subject stand out, you don't want to make it too blurry. This lens was released in December of 2022, which makes it relatively new, and it's coming in right now at 4.4 stars out of 5 on Amazon. However, users should be cautious when shooting handheld with this lens, particularly with cameras like the ZVE10, as it can result in significant rolling shutter or that jello effect that you might get if you're not using a tripod or a monopod. This is an autofocus lens, and in all of my tests, Viltrox has proven to be the fastest autofocus performance, comparable even to my Sony lenses. With an aperture range of f1.2 to f16 and weather sealing, it's a great choice for outdoor shooting and in damp conditions. Another lens that really benefits from a monopod or tripod is this next one, which is intended for very specific applications. The Siri 35mm f1.8 Anamorphic lens. The price of this lens is around $509 US, but it doesn't come in Sony E-mount. To use it with Sony E-mount cameras, you'll need to purchase an additional adapter ring that you can install on the lens itself. It does come in various mounts, but just make sure that your camera doesn't need an adapter in order to house this lens. If you go on to B&H Photo or Adorama, you're gonna see that anamorphic lenses are very pricey. That makes this APS-C anamorphic lens that much more appealing. But don't let the low price fool you, it is definitely a solid lens. With that said, it has 4.2 out of 5 stars on Amazon. So if you're interested, I would say check out the bad reviews to see what people are saying with particular units that they've received. Sometimes people might receive lenses that aren't that good. I always like to go to the 1 star to see what people are saying. Siri did send this lens to me about 1.5 years ago. I did a review video about it, and then it sat on my shelf, and I've used it off and on whenever I need an anamorphic lens. This lens was released in 2023, and basically what it will do is capture extra wide shots, giving you a cinematic look. This lens offers a 1.33 times de-squeeze factor, and unlike wide-angle lenses, it avoids that fisheye distortion that you would get on the outside edges. A key benefit to using something like the Sony FX30 or other cameras nowadays is they have de-squeeze options within the display, so you can actually see what the image looks like rather than having to take it to post-production and then unsqueeze it. But if I was to use this with something like the ZV-E10 or the A6700, my image would look squished on the display, and I would have to take it into post-production and de-squeeze it. It has a minimum focus distance of 2 feet and 8 inches, which is not ideal for close-up shots, and the 35mm focal length translates to 50mm equivalent on a full-frame camera, which will limit your options in a small space. Like most anamorphic lenses, this one is manual focus, which makes it challenging if you want to do a headshot like I'm doing right now. You'll have to put something in the frame and then focus on it and just hope that you don't come in and out of that focus window while you're talking to the camera. This is not really a run and gun type of lens. It's more intended for a specific and deliberate use. I would bring it out when I'm creating a narrative film or doing some type of client shoot for someone who wants to get a cinematic look type of video. Another hallmark feature of anamorphic lenses is that beautiful light streak that you get produces across the lens. It's a signature look that you might often see in movies. However, not all cinematic lenses are created equal, leading us to our next lens. The price of this lens is around $466 US, and unlike the anamorphic lens, this one does not distort your image for post-production adjustments. You could use this lens to get a standard field of view shot over that extra wide format that we were talking about with the anamorphic. It comes in all of the major camera mounts, including Canon RF, so that's a huge plus to Canon users. You can actually get this cine lens for Canon. With that said, this lens does come in with the lowest amount of good reviews on Amazon, 4.1 out of 5 stars. I would be very interested to see what people are not happy about with this lens because I haven't had any issues with it since using it. 7 Artisans did send this lens to me about 1.5 years ago, and I made a review video for them, and after that, I've only used it as needed. This lens was released in December of 2021, and I made a fun short film with my buddy Todd in a low light situation where we were able to see the skin tones out of this thing, which were surprisingly accurate, and also do a lot of low light type of shooting. This is a testament to the quality of glass that sits inside of this lens in 7 Artisans because it produces a very sharp edge, which allows for greater cropping when you're shooting in 4K. With a minimum focus distance of 2 feet, this lens weighs a hefty 956 grams, making it very front heavy. So if you were to put this lens on the ZV-E10, you would have to really hold on tight because the lens would constantly want to fall forward. If you're planning on doing a long shoot, then consider a rig to balance out the weight. Like the anamorphic lens, this one is manual focus. I used to be frustrated with manual focus, but as I have progressed, I've come to appreciate the control that manual focus lenses provide. Rather than leaving the focus to the camera's judgment and just hoping that the camera focuses on what you want it to focus on, manual focus gives you a lot more control. I would take this lens out for cinema type of video, especially in a run and gun situation since there's no anamorphic squeeze. The background effects differ from standard APS-C lenses, and the t1.05 aperture that you get with this lens makes it a great low light shooter. However, due to its manual focus nature, I wouldn't recommend it for client headshots or portrait videography like I would this next lens, the Viltrox 23mm f1.4. The Viltrox 23mm f1.4 prime lens is one of my favorites on this list due to its versatility. Sorry if I didn't explain to you the difference between zoom and prime lenses, but a prime lens has a fixed focal length, so you can't zoom in and out. You'll need to physically move closer or further away from your subject to change your composition. So that might be a negative to someone who wants to be able to zoom. However, prime lenses generally offer better image quality and low light performance compared to zoom lenses. They also tend to be smaller and lighter. A zoom lens lets you change the focal length, meaning you can zoom in and zoom out, making your subject appear closer or farther away. This is great for situations where you need to quickly change your framing, like sports or wildlife photography, and you don't want to have to continually change out your lenses. The Viltrox 23mm f1.4 comes in at $299 US, and it's compatible with Sony E, Fuji X, Nikon Z, and Canon EF. Right now, the Amazon reviews have it at about 4.8 out of 5 stars, but that differs mount to mount. B&H Photo did lend me out this lens, and I've used it with the Fuji X-T5 and the X-T50 along with the Sony a6700. It was pretty much my go-to prime lens whenever I was shooting with this camera. The 23mm focal length gives me a 35mm lens on a full frame equivalent. So this was very close to that TT Artisan 25mm f2 that we talked about in the very beginning of this video, except the difference is that this has a great autofocus. It's Viltrox, so the autofocus is going to be outstanding, and it was for me. It's wide enough to capture the scene without being too distorted, but it can also create a nice sense of close-ups when you need it. It's especially handy for indoor shots where space can be limited, like my overhead product shots. The f1.4 aperture gives you a lot of flexibility with depth of field and low light shooting, and the autofocus, like I mentioned, is pretty good, and it works great with Fuji cameras. And I know Fuji cameras are having a tough time with autofocus these days, so you want to get the best lens possible so you're not having double issues. Image quality is generally good, although I have noticed some purple fringing in really harsh light environments when I'm shooting wide open, and sometimes the bokeh can be a little bit messy for my liking, but it's not a deal breaker. In terms of size and weight, I think it's a great size as an everyday carry lens. Overall, I think it's a fantastic choice, especially for the price. Sure, there are a lot of lenses that you might be able to get out there that are slightly better in certain areas, but they're gonna cost you more and they may be even heavier to carry around, and the autofocus won't be that great. If you're on a budget and you think that the 23mm focal length will suit your needs, then this lens is a no-brainer. The Sigma 56mm f1.4 is another amazing portrait lens for both photography and client head shoots. By the way, you can go to Sigma's website and download sample photos as well if you're not sure which lens you should go with. Maybe the sample photos and videos that I gave to you weren't enough. Well, you can also go there, or you can go there instead of mine. This lens comes in all of the major lens mounts, and it starts at $479 US. It makes it about $100 cheaper than the Viltrox 75mm f1.4. This one has 4.8 out of 5 stars. All of these Sigma lenses do. The Sigma Trio, all of them have great, outstanding reviews on Amazon. But that also changes from camera mount to camera mount, so just double check on the camera mount that you're going with. One of the reasons why I loved using the Sigma 56 for my purposes is it had a perfect combination of a slightly longer focal length and also a wider aperture, which makes it ideal for capturing photos, which I loved because I was capturing a lot of portraits. If I was in the high $400 budget range and I couldn't afford that Viltrox 75 and I was doing client head shoots, then this would be my lens. I would also use this lens as a product photography type of lens. The subject's gonna be super sharp in focus, and the background just melts away, not too much, not as much as that 75mm, but enough to make it look like a really high-end quality camera. It's also a fantastic choice for the low light video capabilities and photography, thanks to its fast aperture. And because it's a prime, it tends to be sharper and produce better image quality than zoom lenses that are at similar price points. So if you need a prime, you need to travel, and you hope to vlog, then don't get the Sigma 56, get this next lens. The Viltrox 13mm f1.4 is a super sharp lens. The 13mm comes in at 20mm full frame equivalent, which I find to be the perfect amount if you want to do arm's length vlogging. The price of this wide angle lens comes in at around $459 US, and much like the Viltrox 75mm f1.2, this is one of the sharpest lenses in my collection. If you're interested in vlogging or doing real estate photography and videography, then this would be your lens. It has amazing autofocus capabilities, and with touch tracking on most cameras nowadays, you're able to easily focus in on whatever it is you're trying to focus in on, and it stays locked on. This lens comes in Sony E-mount, Fuji X, and Nikon Z, and it has a 4.7 out of 5 star rating on Amazon. The Viltrox 13mm f1.4 was released in January of 2022. And with an aperture of f1.4, it excels in low light conditions, allowing for great flexibility, creativity in various settings, and also a great little travel lens. Although not the best travel lens in the world, it's about the same length as that Sigma 16, but you do get a little bit more width in the focal length. I actually used this particular lens during a wedding while I was shooting with the Sony a6700, and I was thoroughly impressed by the stunning image quality it delivered. Viltrox did send this to me about 2 years ago, and I made a video for them, and since then I've only used it as needed. With a minimum focus distance of about 8 inches, it's ideally suited for close-up shots and product photography, which also allows for detailed captures that really highlight your subject. Interestingly enough, I believe that the skin tones produced by this Viltrox 13mm f1.4 are superior to those from the Viltrox 75mm f1.4. I don't know if Viltrox used a different glass. I'm not 100% sure. Now, perhaps the difference has to do with the actual focal length and then how it actually interacts with various lighting conditions. I don't know. The lens has a minimum aperture of f16, which means I could effectively utilize this lens up into a certain point before I would have to add an ND filter. I would absolutely pull this 13mm out of my bag for vlogging, fast-paced environments, on-the-go creation, and capturing wide landscape shots. It's got a combination of sharpness, great autofocus functionality, and low light performance, making it a fantastic addition to any videographer or photographer's gear bag. Whether you're exploring new locations or you're just documenting events, this lens will enhance your creative endeavors. I couldn't do a best 12 APS-C lenses without mentioning the good old-fashioned kit lenses. A lot of people don't have a budget to buy anything other than a kit lens. And I'm here to encourage you, if you have to get a kit lens, don't worry. Kit lenses are good. They can do exactly what it is that you want them to do. You just have to understand how to use your camera exposure and also how to light the environment. But for many years, I only had a kit lens, so it was important that I include it in this list so that you can be encouraged. Every camera in most cases has the ability to come with a kit lens, which means if you were to buy a camera body, you could probably get the kit lens for significantly less than if you were to buy it as a standalone lens. Take, for example, this Sony kit lens, the 16-50 f3.5 to 5.6. When I bought the ZV-E10 Mark I and I purchased this kit lens to go along with it, it only added $100 to the total price. But if I was to buy this kit lens right now, as of the time of recording this video, it would actually cost me $300. So that's why I would suggest if you ever buy a camera body, also pick up the kit lens, because sometimes people are shocked to know what these kit lenses can actually do. Kit lenses offer a versatile zoom range, typically covering wide angle to short telephoto, which allows beginners to experiment with various compositions and subjects. That's another good reason why kit lenses may be a good option for someone who's just starting out, because they're designed to be lightweight, compact, and also just to be very convenient and easy to use. You can use the zoom function on your camera if you need. Kit lenses are not going to be as fast or as sharp as something like a prime lens or a standard zoom lens that you would get like the Sigma 18-50mm f2.8, but they are a good supplement until you can save up to get the good stuff. I started out with the A7 III and I did many client head shoots with the A7 III's kit lens. And not one of those clients ever said to me, "I wish your videos looked better." Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to check out my free lens quiz along with all of the free project files that I've included for each one of these lenses in the description. Until the next one, I'm Joe with the Film Alliance. One of the most asked questions that I receive is, which camera should I buy? I know that you want to make the right decision, and it's a big decision. You want to find the camera that best suits your needs and stays within your budget. Many of you know which camera might be for you, but you need some guidance pinpointing it and feeling confident in your decision. That's why I made this course. I want to put my camera experience and knowledge into a compact and easy to follow format. I jam-packed it with camera buying fundamentals that I guarantee you will carry through the rest of your camera journey. I based this entire course on all the things that I wish I had known or someone had told me when I first started out. From understanding different camera types and their features to matching them with your specific video and photography needs, this course covers it all. After finishing, I'm confident that you'll finally have clarity over every angle and aspect that you might consider when buying a camera. I'll guide you through my entire camera buying process, taking you 90% of the way there. That way you'll be well prepared to make your decision. This is essentially all the guidance that I would give my own brother if he asked me, "Hey Joe, which camera should I buy?" Now I'm going to share that insight with you.